You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, happy Tuesday evening. It's just a few minutes past the hour of 10. We got a little bit of a late start here. So this is the Jen and Rick Show. We are live, coming to you live from KLNRradio.com. When we get done here, you'll have the Rhino Report. And then, of course, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning with a special episode of America Off the Rails. We're kind of taking America Off the Rails old school FCG style. I have Bella Blue back in the house with us. We're going to be putting that episode together this evening, running it tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that one. It should be fun. We're going to take things a little more local for the Okies. Talk about some of the state stuff that we have going on with the questions and some of the weird things going on with the Sheriff's Department and the police officer that was recently arrested for helping someone in prostitution. It's going to be a fun show, so make sure you catch that one tomorrow. Enough plugging of other stuff, so I want to say good evening to Miss Jen, my co-host who hangs out with me here every Tuesday and Thursday on the Jen and Rick Show. Good evening. How are you?
You know, doing pretty good. Surviving one more week closer to the election.
What are we, like 21 days and counting now?
Gosh, the election that I wish we could all wake up from.
I honestly, at this point, I'm just ready for November 9th so we can figure out what kind of a mess we're going to be in and start putting the pieces back together. Because, I mean, I'm tired of getting hit from all sides just because I won't support either one of these idiots. And I'm really tired of well, if you're not voting for him, then you're voting for her. And if you're not voting for her, then you're voting for him. No, that's not how this works. It's really, I promise, it's not how it works. This is not Common Core math. If I don't vote for Trump, then I don't vote for Trump. And if I don't vote for Hillary, then I don't vote for Hillary. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a wasted vote, except if you're having to hold your nose and can't look yourself in the mirror after you pull the lever. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of crazy that we've just, I mean, everything is so divided. You know, I mean, we have really noticed the division on the right because that's the side of the spectrum that we're on. But, you know, there is so much division on the left, too. And that's what's so, and I mean, incredible, not in the good way, like incredible as in actually just hard to believe about this election is that it has just splintered so many factions. It has, you know, there is very little unity at all, except for begrudgingly so, on both sides of the aisle. And most people, except for the few, you know, the sector of diehard Trump fans and the sector of diehard Hillary fans, there's just so much about this with so much of the populace. And even those that are super tuned into this entire process, it's really on both sides that we're going, how the heck did we end up here with these candidates? It's kind of in its own way is like a fascinating historical, you know, moment to be living in.
It's a crazy moment to be living in. And sadly, how we got here is a bunch of anger and name recognition on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've spent most of my day when I wasn't at work on my timeline on Twitter, and I managed to irritate both Trump supporters and Hillary supporters all at the same time. So I have kind of been taking turns hitting each one of them back as they kept coming at me. And one of the things that the Hillary supporters kept mentioning over and over again was the fact that Comey never said that she was negligent. And then I played an audio clip where he specifically said she was negligent. You're lying. I'm like, they're as bad as Trump supporters.
Yeah, no, it really is. And, you know, we're so used to it from very diehard liberals. We're so used to it from them, that ultra serious class of them. Oh, here's my son busting in.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, Mama's working. Can you go outside? Okay, bye.
Oh, come on. You can let him say hello. He's already in here.
No, I think he snuck away from Grandma and doesn't even know that he's not supposed to be in here. Anyways, I think that it's just we're so used to that kind of rhetoric and that type of thing from liberals, but now that we have been entrenched in it on the right for the last at least 6 to 8 months, if not a year, I think it's hard for those of us that have tried to, study, analyze, and be rational about politics and what parts emotion play, what parts, education plays, like what parts, all these different factors that go into the decisions behind which political party or ideology you support, that it's fascinating that we're seeing the same thing that we've always seen on the left in our eyes happening on the right now in such on what seems like such a large scale based on our social media bubbles. But even at the rallies and all the things covered in media, I think it's just kind of like, it's like, whoa. That's what the teens say, right? It's like, whoa.
I don't know. You're closer to that than me. I don't really keep up with anything they say anymore.
Yeah. There were a couple songs that's how they said things. That's like, whoa. It's like, I can't even. Or the overuse of literally, that stuff. But anyways.
Well, no, I mean, it just, I blame a lot of the more prominent talk show hosts on the right, because they've been the ones for the last 2 cycles that have been telling everybody, we've got to learn to be like the Democrats. We have to put our differences aside and back the nominee no matter what. No, actually we don't, and we shouldn't. And that's one of the things that I've been screaming all along. I mean, I gotta admit, I was a little perturbed when people wouldn't necessarily back Romney, because Romney's probably the closest thing to a teddy bear I've ever get to the president, get even within a few steps of the presidency. So I was really confused when nobody wanted to support him, other than, of course, the religious issue, because a lot of folks were like, oh my God, he's Mormon, those people have magic underwear. I'm like, I don't really care what his religious preference is, as long as he can fix the country, because it's not like he's got
I think for me too, I was annoyed with people that were being a little too, what we say, what is now a dirty word, purist, about things, because I felt like there was a lot of short-sightedness in what they were, that's back when the Tea Party was really in full swing, and people were so enveloped in some of the local Tea Parties and very strongly conservative movements that they could be more choosy with their state senators and people elected in their communities and in their state legislatures, as opposed to the national candidate that has to be able to carry over the entire country. But I felt like a good 90% of his stances, values, morals, principles, all of that were dead on in line with the Conservative Party. And I think that he had enough of a demeanor about him and a head on his shoulders that could adequately, navigate the job, and also be a president for other people. He's not vindictive. He's not thin-skinned. He's not petty. He doesn't, all of those things, which even back then, before I knew we might have a Donald Trump this time around, those were arguments I was making to friends and family of mine. I wasn't on Twitter yet, so I was making these arguments to friends and family of mine that there are really, really good qualities. This is a really good man who I think will compromise in some regards and will stand very firm in others, and that anybody could be proud to support. And I think that's the very key difference here. It's not only the principles and the conservative, ideology and constitutional strictness and values. It's also being able to be proud of supporting them as a man, as who they are, how they live their life, and in how they treat people and how they have conducted themselves in the public sphere. And that's the big difference between someone like Romney and Donald Trump, even if you don't agree ideologically, why you could support Romney, but absolutely put your foot down with Trump.
No, I mean, exactly. I mean, Romney was the epitome of everything that we say we want from a conservative. He was a guy that did things quietly and unboastfully when he helped people. There were people that he had been doing things for decades that they'd never even known that he'd done it. Like who was it? The the guy at the. There was somebody that he had annoyed at a nursing facility or an old folks home or something when he'd made a comment about their milk deliveries or something, and he'd realized he'd hit a nerve. So secretly, he'd been paying for their milk for like 20 years and never told anybody. I mean, but he wasn't good enough, and now I'm supposed to turn my head, stand up on my head, give up everything I believe in, all because at this point we have to stop Hillary at all cost. When we stop Hillary by becoming exactly like the Democrats, how exactly have we stopped Hillary?
Exactly. I mean, all we've done is we've turned their tactics into ours. And some people say, yeah, we should be doing more of that. And I think in some ways we should be. I think that there are points to be made about things that we could do and practices and tactics of the left that we could adopt in order to do things like, counter the liberal stronghold on education and, infiltrate, local governments to be able to turn the cultural tide, but not in the way of getting someone elected, overlooking very blatant mistakes, errors, I don't know, and actual possible crimes in order to do so. That is not something I'm willing to do.
No, I mean, and same thing with me. And honestly, my social media has been a mess because now I have family members who are like blatantly posting things about Trump, and I'm just like, look, I'm not really trying to change your mind at this point. I'm just trying to get you to stop and think about what you're saying, because you're basically saying at this point that she is bad enough that you're willing to. I mean, look, we had a 16 out of 17 chance of beating this woman, and we floated King Louis from the Jungle Book.
Right.
I mean, really.
I want to be like you. Yeah. We really did a number on ourselves. And, I do place, and I say this often on Twitter, I place a lot of blame on the, there's this whole idea of this big establishment beast, like we've talked about before, that is like ever-changing definitions now based on the argument and what people want it to fit. But there's this, establishment beast that gets blamed for the rise of Trump and why certain things are going the way they're. Well, that may be partially true, but ultimately the people that were voting in the primaries that voted for Trump and supported him from the very beginning, when they still had all of these excellent options, especially those that are claiming it's because of like conservatism and bucking the system and being anti-establishment. Well, Ted Cruz should have been their guy. He's the one that they say, all of DC hates, and he's the one that filibustered on the floor. So many, he stood up to the leaders, to the establishment time and time again. And, is the most constitutionally conservative of pretty much any elected official in this country. And instead they chose to go with the clown show that is Donald Trump. I mean, they went with the celebrity. They went with the name. They went with the talker that was saying things that, they would scream at their own TV instead of, speaking respectfully and eloquently to fellow, to his peers. So I blame the primary voter, the people that supported Trump from the beginning that were primary voters and really pushed him, and then the conservative media wing that latched onto that for popularity and shoved it down our throats. I mean, you can talk about the establishment, and I'm not saying they have no part, but I just think that, the con man's going to con, and he conned a whole bunch of people, and people really saw how quickly they could capitalize on his basically populist movement.
And that's basically what it is. It is a populist movement. And there are people that are like, but that's a good thing. No, really, it's not. Because now we have Republicans, I'm not going to call them conservatives, that are now advocating for the very same thing that they were laughing at the Democrats for in 2000. Literally laughing them out of the room. And now they're like, we want the same thing. Really? We didn't 16 years ago. What's changed? Other than the fact that we've had people of more progressive leanings infiltrating us now for a while. Bannon being case in point, one of the guys who managed to work himself way up into the top of one of the Tea Party organizations and then actually became a regional chair of the Tea Party, who was and then eventually went on to be an editor at Breitbart and then eventually run the whole thing before he signed on with Trump, who is a self-proclaimed Leninist. Because when the Tea Party was being built, we were using policies and procedures and teachings of people like Sun Tzu to decide how we wanted to run the Tea Party. The enemy of the enemy is my friend. The problem that always happens with that is when the enemy of your enemy no longer considers the people that you were allied against an enemy, you become the new enemy. I watched this play out in my family over and over and over again as a child. My grandmother on my mother's side had 3 sisters and our 3 daughters and 1 son. Those 3 sisters, about every 3 years, there would be a fundamental shift. There would be 2 of them that would talk to each other and the other one would be on the outs. And about every 3 to 4 years, something would change that would irritate one of them, and they would shift, and all of a sudden it was the other 2 that were talking, and now there was another one on the outs. And it happened all the way through my childhood. And the same thing happens when we practice those type of behaviors, because it's a temporary alliance. When they get what they want, they tear it apart, and they move on. Bannon has specifically said his goal from the beginning for getting involved in the Tea Party was to destroy the two-party system and rebuild it in his image. And now, not only has he been using a supposed conservative publication to basically spoon-feed people his ideology, now he's like number 1 of the Trump campaign. That's a very scary thing for me. And it's another reason why I'm looking at this going, I don't care what anybody tells me. This man cannot be president. I understand that in a lot of your eyes, it means that Hillary Clinton is going to be president. If you look at the polls that were out from the day he announced, it was a foregone conclusion. The day he announced, we knew if we floated King Louis, we knew that she was going to win. And people tried to do it anyway because they thought they could beat the system. I'll be the first one to tell you our governmental system is rigged. Not our elections, but the government system itself is rigged. It's designed to maintain power for those that are inside of it. It's like a cocoon. Once you're in, you don't want to get out, and they try to keep anybody new out for as long as possible. That's why they weren't happy with the Tea Party. It's why they hated Cruz. It's why they still hate Cruz. But it's also why they don't hate Trump, no matter how much they try to tell you that they do, because he's been a part of their system from the other side of it for 30, 40 years. And nobody's talking about that either. At least the people that are, nobody's listening to.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's said by people like us all the time. And people go, oh, well, no. I mean, he was a businessman. And, of course, he had to donate for, expedient reason. What? Are you kidding? Of course he was a factor. And no, it shouldn't just be shrugged off that he gave as much money as he did to various foundations, organizations, and politicians that went to furthering their causes and their agendas. And to just turn a blind eye to that and act like, well, that's just what he had to do at the time is just utter crap, and actually insults my intelligence that you think that I should just buy that and that now he's totally on board with a Republican agenda, which we know very well he is not. His is much more closely related to even Clinton's agenda herself, but the Democratic, even a moderate Democratic agenda. I was going to say about Bannon, there's very good reason to believe he's very much behind this whole voter fraud thing, and it kind of in the stolen election, it being rigged. Even before it's ever happened, it kind of plays into what you were saying about him wanting to destroy the two-party system. I mean, he would love nothing more than for there to be some sort of uprising when Trump doesn't win, no matter how legitimately he doesn't win, to make most of the public feel like that, or make a big chunk of the public feel like he was wronged in some way, or that there was some preset type thing. Where they're calling for people to poll watch, people to go and spy and video and report back to certain. They want you to volunteer to do this to make sure that there's not voter fraud, which they have described as rampant. We know it happens. Rampant, though, not enough to completely change an election, though you could argue maybe so because of how close, Bush versus Gore was. But that whole thing is just kind of crazy how they now are just pushing this so hard. He's saying it every day at this point, tweeting it quite a few times. It's just setting up for the loss and a chance to possibly get some sort of civil unrest out of the public, which I think is extremely irresponsible.
Well, and the scary thing about this, and pardon me while I put my tinfoil hat on for a second before we go to break, and then we'll actually get into the stories that we had slated. The scary thing about this, if this plays out the way Bannon is hoping, they're actually opening the door for the UN to come in and negate our elections. They actually have the ability under international law, if they can prove that there's widespread voter fraud, if they are even get it to the point where people believe it enough and there starts to be unrest, the UN can actually come in and step in and negate the entire thing, and then the whole process starts over. I'm really starting to wonder at this point if somebody isn't pushing for that. I don't know who. The only person I can think of off the top of my head that would want such a thing would be Soros, but he's got both of them so deep in his pockets, I'm not sure which one he's rooting for at this point. I mean, he may just be wanting to topple the whole board and start over. I'm not sure, because he's just about crazy enough to do it.
Yeah, certainly. And I think, though, like the UN thing, and I've heard this kind of in various places over the last few weeks, I mean, there's no reason why we have to honor it. And I think kind of like coming to take our guns, I don't see a way in which they really are going to be able to take that over, why the military would stand for it and enforce it. No global forces are going to come to the United States and try to enforce some crap like that. So I do think that it's something that even though it's something that can be done, I don't think that there's any chance it actually will without causing some sort of civil, if not global war.
Well, no. I mean, don't misunderstand
but it's such
me.
A crazy. But I mean, it's just such a crazy circumstance. This election's so insane that why not? I mean, who knows? Just everything has not been what we have ever seen before or thought could happen. So it's just.
I mean, who knows? And like I said, I'm not saying that I guarantee that's going to happen. I'm just saying it is something that would technically be a possibility if they continue to get people as jazzed up over this whole potential voter fraud thing as they're talking about right now. But hey, I mean, who knows? I guess we'll see soon enough. All right, so we need to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're actually going to get into the stuff that we had scheduled to talk about tonight. The show kind of started off in a completely different direction, but that happens from time to time. And we're going to pay some bills. Be right back. Don't go away.
I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live, and something I seem to have a frog in my throat. Yay, fun times. All right, so for once, we're actually going to say something marginally positive, I guess, about Donald Trump, because I guess he's got a new message he's honing for the public. I think I'm going to let you take lead on this one so I can try to figure out why my throat is suddenly starting to try to close up on me. Fun times, fun times.
Okay, so term limits? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. The term limit one.
Okay. Yeah, so he has said that he wants to... Yeah, this is actually one of those, like... It's probably the most sane thing that he has proposed, and he's actually said it in various forms, which at first, when I heard about it, I heard that he was saying he will make an amendment. It turns out I've read several different ways in which he stated it. He said he will propose an amendment, he will push for amendment, he will... make them, but meaning like make Republicans in Congress push for this amendment for term limits on members of Congress. He said specifically he wants to drain the swamp of the nation's capital. The time for congressional term limits has finally arrived, Mr. Trump said after promising to push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on congressional lawmakers. Not only will it end our government corruption, but we will end the economic stagnation that we are in right now. He reinforced it another time and then went on to all the rigged election stuff. But, so, you know, this is a noble idea. It's a good idea. It's one a lot of people have wanted, or so they claim. My thing about it is that we actually do have term limits. It's called elections. we just refuse to impose them. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the term limit arguments on a national scale. And it has worked quite a few places, locally and even, in states have put them into place between the 80s and mid 90s. But one of the things about it is that it seems to be, when it comes down to it, people really mean that they want term limits on the other guy, but their guy's just fine to keep staying in because they continue to vote for a career politician for years and years and years, even if they have a worthy opponent or replacement. So, I think it's a sound thing to propose. I think it's one of the better ideas that he's put forth that doesn't sound, offensive or crazy or weird, and it's something a lot of conservatives have talked about, and even Democrats have talked about. But the main problem here, Congress. What does it take to amend the Constitution? They're not going to vote themselves out of office. That's basically it might be the most unifying and bipartisan vote we would ever see.
No, I mean, exactly. And that's part of it. Going back to something you talked about a second ago, this is one of the things that has always driven me crazy about politics in D.C. Explain to me how this works, that the entire body of Congress can have a negative approval rating, but if you ask somebody from Texas or Oklahoma or anywhere else what they think of their senator, their congressman, etc., having a technical... I think I have it about button back down again. All right, so anyway, I'm not sure where I cut out, so just to back up for a second. You ask, Congress can have a negative approval rating overall, but if you ask anybody from a specific state what they think of the job of that their congressman or senator is doing, they're great. It's the rest of the folks that suck. How is that even possible? Right. That the entire group can have a negative approval rating, but your guy's awesome?
Well, I think it's pretty typical, though.
Except for maybe Cruz. I mean, I can kind of see why he would be awesome and everybody else would suck. Because, I mean, most of the time I'm even disappointed
and I guess
with
that's one of my
folks.
main experiences is people like Cruz and Kay Bailey Hutchison and a few others that have, kind of really towed the people's line of the state of Texas. But I think that's really typical, right? Like if you live in the South, you think, all those northeastern states, those Yankees and the West Coasters, the liberal sides of the country, they're botching this for us. So it must be their senators' faults. And then you go and look up who voted what, and you're like, yep. Nope, screw them. But my guy voted the way I wanted him to. So he's doing his job. He's doing it well. So I think everybody gets that feeling because they all look up what their senator does, or they know because they keep tabs on them. But then they maybe have met them, or they've heard them speak, or they've actually seen them in person. All these other people are just, villainous characters in the media and with a certain type of vote next to their name and a certain party next to their name. So they're not who they like or who they want or who they care for. So they hate Congress. And but their guy got what he wanted done, what you wanted done, and what he wanted done. Our guy got that done, so that guy's good to go. No worries. I mean, that's kind of how it is, I think.
No, I mean exactly, but to me, the idea of term limits is as crazy as thinking that anybody's ever actually going to vote down the income tax. You know that thing that was supposed to be temporary, that technically has to get passed every so often to make sure we get to keep having it. They're going to make that go away when they know that some of that money is what pays their salaries? Because, before income tax and everything else, they really didn't have salaries. Not the way they do now, because we couldn't afford to pay them what we pay them now.
Well, yeah, and I actually heard today on a local show, a guy here in Austin does a show every day by the name of Jeff Ward, and he was talking about, wouldn't it be interesting if the incentive were lowered? It's not that we had term limits, but that let's say after a 6-year term, let's say you had a 6-year term, that's what we'd say, a 6-year term, after that, your salary would decrease yearly if you're reelected. It would decrease. How many people would willingly quit on their own, step aside, retire, whatever else, if it continued to decrease after the first 6 years for the rest of the time you're in office. And I thought, that's kind of funny. That's interesting. And that might be something that people would more likely do versus just saying they cannot be in office anymore. But I think that, for instance, in Texas, there are like 30 races just in the state of Texas, not talking about nationally, 30 races coming up in November. And only one of them is even close to being a contested race. I mean, the incumbent winning percentage is so off the charts locally, statewide, and actually even locally probably has the highest rate of not electing incumbents as opposed to the state level and the federal level. But it's just so out of control, as far as the incumbent winning percentage, that this is a mindset that you're just not going to be able to turn around and just get people to vote for an amendment for, even if they claim it, when they actually go to, be in the position to make a decision on it. They're just not going to do it, I don't think. Because like we said, they like their guy. They like their guy. Why do you think Marco Rubio said he wasn't going to run again? Marco Rubio is going to crush it. Paul Ryan had Trump attacking him even before he very reluctantly endorsed him just a few days before the election primaries for him. And we had a guy that was campaigning completely on Trump, and supposedly Trump is, so popular and so amazing. It's what the voters wanted, and everybody hates the establishment and hates Paul Ryan, hated Boehner, hates McConnell, all these things that Ryan should have been at least given a run for his money, and he wins his election with 84%. Or he wins his primary with 84%, and it looks like he's going to slaughter, it in the re-election campaign. It's just the evidence just isn't there for something like this. But it is like I said, it is a sound and respectable thing to propose, especially just a few weeks out from the election. But I have a feeling it has something to do with him wanting to turn this around and stomp on Ryan. I just do. I have a feeling part of this is so he can say, so we can get people like Paul Ryan out of office. And I'm just waiting for that shoe to drop.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure it's coming. All right, so I want to touch on one more story, and then I want to close out the night with some pre-debate predictions. So let's see. The Democrats, the king of global warming, humans make everything worse. I mean, I think they do this stuff just to prove their own point, because they just got busted dumping a bunch of waste. And I thought I linked that one to you. I can't seem to find it here now. Hang on. I know
it's okay. I saw it. Which apparently in this area where they did it is a jailable offense.
And yet I bet you none of them's in jail.
But nothing's going to happen because the DNC apologized. Well, they apologized, and that was just so nice of them to do.
But yeah, the same people that ride around in all these nice big jets and burn all this jet fuel and then tell us little peons that we need to turn our thermostats up or down in the winter and up in the summer, basically just completely polluted a nice little area, and they're going to get away with it just fine because they're the DNC, and they said, we're so sorry. You know what would happen if you or I did that and we said, we're so sorry? Please put your hands behind your back.
Yeah, who cares? I don't care how sorry you are. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. And you should know human waste. You should know better. Are you kidding? Dumping it on the street? That is absurd. At least pull over to a field, somewhere along the road where there's maybe like a dump. I don't know. That's just ridiculous and unacceptable.
I'm just imagining all the tree huggers tonight with their heads exploding. How much money have I given to the Democratic Party and they go and do this? Oh my God.
Oh, I'm sure some of them would just, do something to justify it, like how it could be repurposed for fertilizer and could, who knows, whatever. They make up some crap in order to excuse their beloved demigod Democrats.
They're going to make up some crap about the crap.
Make up crap about the crap, exactly. Absolutely.
Oh, it's kind of funny when you crack yourself up on her. Not really. Okay.
No.
So, we're down to about 12 minutes because we did get a late start. So, tomorrow night, over under on whether or not Trump keeps stalking around like a lion.
So, I don't know. Like last week, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, he kept himself decently composed. He went off a few times, but I don't see him, just everything that's happened in the last few weeks since the last debate, I don't see him being able to hold it together as well. Maybe he will. I don't know. Have you heard about the various people who he's possibly bringing to the debate?
I have seen people that we used to work with mention it, but I have not actually looked at it. So I thought
one is like Obama's half-brother is supposedly coming. He was trying to get that kid who claims to be Bill Clinton's son, that like half-black kid that claims to be Bill. I don't know. He's like in his early 20s now or something, maybe late teens. Claims to be Bill Clinton's son. He had mentioned that he might try to get him to come. I don't know. He did the women before. I think he's just trying to do something to make her unsettled or rattle her up. I don't know. It seems very silly to me to do any of that. But I think that Clinton is going to continue unless she gets just really kind of caught off guard or, attacked in a certain way. I think that she's going to continue what she did last debate, where she kind of lets him hang himself, and she doesn't get, very reactionary to things that he says or how he behaves, because it just kind of benefits her to stay above the fray and let him do what he's going to do and make his own story out of it. So I think she'll continue to be advised to do that, even though she's still awful on the debate stage. But it does benefit her to just keep her mouth shut. And I think I don't know. I do think he might kind of lose it. I'm not sure.
The only thing that might save him this time is at least as far as the stalking around like a lion. This one isn't a town hall, so I'm pretty sure they're going to be stuck back behind podiums and stuff again.
Because
one of the things that kept getting thrown around all over social media and everywhere the last time was after the debate, there were some folks, I'm not sure if they're armchair psychologists or actual psychologists, that kept saying the way that Trump actually was stalking around the stage is actually a precursor to possible abuse. I'm like, I've never heard of that before, but whatever.
No. And in one of the instances where they were showing pictures of examples of how he was using his position on the stage and his, height and build to intimidate her, was a time when actually, if you watch the video, she crossed the stage and stood in front of where he was. He didn't walk up behind her and make that stance for an intimidation, as an intimidation technique. She moved to where she was in front of him. So I think that's all a bunch of hogwash, and I totally dislike Trump, and I think he's a bully, and I think that he is not great to women. I think that he possibly is a criminal when it comes to women at times. But I think all of that is a bunch of BS.
And here's the thing. Far be it from me to defend Trump. But, he's got plenty of things under his belt that make him look completely terrible. We don't need to make things up to make him look any worse. Because
exactly.
There's just no point in it.
Well, and I think beyond that, it's been so crappy the way in which the media has kind of handled this, where they've turned this into the the one focus for women the one thing that matters to all women. And I'm not saying it doesn't. It very much matters. This history that's come out about him, these possible accusers, the way in which he's talked about the accusers, and then the recordings we have of him saying various just awful things about women. All of those things do matter. I do think that they matter. But they've kind of put this in this way that it's like this should be the only thing that women are concerned about when they go to vote. And I take great offense to that. I find that extremely insulting. And for a media that wants to portray itself as so progressive, I find it extremely sexist that is the only issue that that we could possibly focus on. I have one of my best friends just had written basically something same on this. We were like same brain mind meld thinking at the same time. They're like, thanks for confirming that Trump's sexual assault comment is the women's issue and that women aren't competent enough to care about legitimate concepts like the economy, taxes, or immigration. I mean, because we only really care about periods and how we're treated by men, especially powerful ones. Oh, and babies. We make babies because otherwise I wouldn't know how to vote unless you told me. And I think that that's so true. And she's, by the way, not a Trump supporter, but she felt like this was so stupid the way that they are trying to make it like, oh, and now all the women who will only care about this one thing, when that's just not accurate. And it's just kind of more indication of how crappy this election is.
I mean, it's just, it's a phrase that we've thrown around for a while now, but it literally is a dumpster fire. And I'm just ready to put the extinguisher on it. This is going to be a terrible thing for me to say. I've already made up my mind. I'm voting Johnson here only because I'm hoping that the Libertarian Party might get to remain on the ballot. Not because I think Johnson is a rock star politician. I think he's an idiot, to be honest. I mean, they're talking about all these crazy things that Trump has said. And did you hear what Johnson said about his trip up Everest?
No, what?
So he was doing an interview, and a reporter had asked him, what it felt like to conquer Mount Everest. He's like, I didn't conquer Mount Everest. She just gave me a peek up her skirt.
Oh, good grief.
I'm like, really? I mean, luckily it's a mountain, so you can't, you can't really turn
it my God,
into
but that remark
crazy,
is so awful.
Exactly.
Why?
Why?
You even need to. Why? It's freaking Everest.
I'm sure he had just partaken of one of his edible delights. So I'm sure he I'm sure he was feeling pretty good. Not to mention the fact, he was still confused over the whole dog food thing, I'm sure. But yeah, so I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I'm not voting for the Libertarian Party because I think Johnson's going to save the world. If anything, the only thing Johnson might be good for is sneaking me some Colorado brownies. But at least it gives the Libertarian Party, hopefully, a chance to stay on the ballot. If enough of us here decide to put our vote there because we can't really see voting for either one of these people, unfortunately, and the thing that nobody understands that I keep having to point out over and over again with the whole, if you're not voting for Trump, you're voting for Hillary. Not in my state, brother. It's going to go blue. It's going to go red regardless. There is no way in hell this state will go blue. The most we might be able to do is turn enough of it yellow that Johnson gets to stay on the ballot, which would still, which means the Libertarian Party would get to stay on the ballot. Which means if we cross that threshold, it's still 85% red. Maybe from the projections, if we manage to turn it, then that would put, let's say, 15% in the yellow column, because they have to get that for him to stay on the ballot. So that leaves 85% remaining, which means likely what would happen is there would be an 81 to 2% red and anywhere from 3 to 4% blue. So 81 to 82% plus 2 to 3% blue. So my vote doesn't really help Donald Trump. My vote won't help Hillary Clinton, but I have the opportunity to possibly help the Libertarian Party do something with themselves in the future when they decide to pull their head out of their rectum, because right now they have it firmly planted there.
So true. Well, and even despite all the worry about Texas being in play, I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to voting in that booth, that we're going to find that it's as maybe not as red as always, but still reliably red. I just don't, from my daily interactions with people, even in the bluest heart of Texas in Austin, Travis County, I just don't see much of a difference in the way that people are going to vote, other than a lot of Democrats that I know and uber liberal people that I know that are going to vote independent and will not vote for Hillary Clinton. So they say right now. We'll see what happens when they really get in the booth. But I don't even see Texas being in play. And, the media wants Texas to be in play so badly, and they're going to overblow any poll that comes around that might possibly show it as being vulnerable. But like I said, I just don't think throughout this big, wide, vast red state that even Trump can make it not go red.
No, I mean, I really don't think so either. But, you mean make it go blue?
We'll see.
Well, no, because I think I might have misheard you, but I think you said even Trump couldn't make it go red. Did I hear you right?
I meant couldn't keep it from being red.
Okay. I'm just like I confused.
Yeah, I may have misspoke. I meant keep it from being red. I mean, even Trump can't keep it. There will be a lot more people that will just swallow their pride, swallow all of it to make sure the Democrats don't get a foothold here. But like I said, I know a lot of Democrats that are not going to vote for Hillary. They're going to go third party. So that could come into play in Texas. And it might be more so about that than it is about actual, Republicans turning away. That might make a difference.
It reminds me of something, though, and it has me a little concerned because for the last few cycles, 538 has been like the best site to go to get the numbers crunched. But the one thing I don't really notice them doing is putting anybody like Evan seriously into play at this point. And from all the polls I'm seeing in especially Utah, he's within a point of tying. So I'm trying to figure out where he fits into the equation for them, because up until now they have been really spot on, but I'm hearing from a few people that have been doing this longer than I have that they've changed their methodology this year, so they're not sure it's going to be as reliable as it was before. I don't know enough about them because I've only really been paying attention to them now for about the last year. But it has me a little concerned that every time you pull them up, they're really anywhere that Evan could possibly have a toehold, they still have it going red. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their methodology is this year. So I still use them a lot, but I'm starting to kind of pull information from other places. Speaking of which, on the way out, I just saw some polling that somebody posted. Now I can't find it, though. The CBS poll had it Clinton +9. There was, I think, an NBC poll that had it Clinton +4. And there were a few there in the middle that I don't really have much interaction with that had some of the numbers even further skewed. But the thing about it is, no matter what these folks tell you, the polls, and if you look at the aggregate data for the polls, Donald Trump has been the one person who was assured to have lost to Hillary Clinton from the day that he announced. From the very day that he announced, the polling data has had her strongly in the point where she is right about now with a +6 to +9 lead. Everyone knew that, and they still tried to float him anyway because of name recognition. And again, there are people I strongly blame for this. I blame people like Sean Hannity. I blame people like Laura Ingraham. I blame people like Reince Priebus because he decided ratings were more important than the integrity of the party. I have a problem with all of them at this point. And for you mentioned at the beginning of the show, for probably about the next 6 months to a year, possibly even 4 years, some of them that have the bigger microphones are going to be standing up going, "You own this, you did this to us." No, because I'm going to turn it right back around on you. But we really got to get out of here because I have a guest coming on so we can pre-record for tomorrow. So on the way out the door, why don't you remind folks where it is that you can hang out, or they can hang out with you when you're not on the radio hanging out with me.
All right. Mostly Twitter at J Homestead. You can find me J.R. Homestead on Facebook. And we actually just put out a pretty neat post today on misfitpolitics.weebly.com where it's October is National Book Month. And so we all put together our favorite books and why and what they mean to us. So that's the first thing at the top of the site at misfitpolitics.weebly.com. So check it out.
All right, and I, of course, am AOTR_host on Twitter. You can hang out with me there. There's other places you can hang out, but I really don't have time to go into them tonight because we got to wrap this one up. Also want to give a big shout-out to all the new listeners on America Off the Rails lately. The last few shows have gone completely off the charts. Want to thank you guys very much for that. If you're not listening, you might want to get in on it now because the numbers are starting to get crazy. You could say I knew him when. One of these days when I'm actually making good money doing this stuff. Just saying. And that was more of a prayer, not a brag, folks, so don't hate. We'll be back we'll be back Thursday. Actually, Jen, are you coming on tomorrow night or no? I hadn't thought to ask yet.
Can I please? I'd love to.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. But yeah, we'll have a debate roundup going on, debate roundtable after the debate. Trying to get conservative curmudgeon to come on with us because he's opted to not do a show tomorrow night since the debate's going to be going on. I'm like, hey, you can come hang out with us, but he won't he won't let me know till tomorrow. So if you hang out with G on Twitter and you're listening to the show right now, hit him up, tell him he better be there.
Tell him G. Come on.
All right, folks, we're out. Take care. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.